Welcome back to week 2, the DFS Fantasy Jags Golf Stream. I am your host, Tony Altieri, and with me again for week 2, I think we've coined a nickname, the DDS of DFS, Dr. Rick Mukherjee. Rick, what's going on, man?
Hey, man, thanks for having me.
Yeah, glad to have you back, man. Exciting times last week, last major of the year. We had probably our biggest following on Twitter through our videos. So I'm glad to see you were able to get a few of your friends to pay attention to what we got going on here. So it's always nice when we eclipse the 100 mark through all of our things. But good week last week, obviously. I hit a winner last week with Morikawa. I'm curious to figure out how your card ended up working out with your bets, but more importantly, your DraftKings strategy from last week and how that panned out.
Yeah, DraftKings was pretty terrible last week. I didn't cash in anything high dollar wise. I had a miscut from Mr. Patrick Reed, and he pretty much tanked my lineup. It was one of those weeks where just nothing goes good. But I mean, I'm pretty prone to not being good in the majors. So this week's more my deal with a crappy field in a lower end tournament. That's more my bread and butter.
Yeah, it's one of those things, as we talked about it, a lot on the show last week, was you get so many randoms, right? Like the pool of potential players when we have a major like that exceeds 2-3 times what we have during the normal tournament stops. And so you get a lot of folks that don't participate, people that are coming over from other sports that are starting to put massive lineups in, and it throws a huge wrench in everybody's strategy, and it makes it that much harder to win when it's already super difficult.
Yeah, absolutely. It's one of those weeks. I mean, you just pack, just forget about it and kind of move on. I did get some of my losses back with I hit a winner in Seamus Power on the Barbasol. I didn't give it out on the show, but he was the only bet I placed on the Barbasol, and he just happened to miraculously, like, it was weird. Like I literally kind of took a nap when JT Poston was like up like 4 strokes going into the back 9, and then like next thing I know, I woke up and they're in a playoff, and I was like, what happened? And I looked back and he like blew up somehow, and somehow Power pulled it off in like I think 5 playoff holes or something like that.
Yeah, it was extremely interesting because I was similar to you, right? Like watched the Open, got up at like 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, watched all day. I was kind of burnt out on golf. So I flipped it over, I think, real late in the afternoon, like 2-3 in the afternoon. And, Poston was up with 9 holes left by like 4 or 5 strokes. And I was like, wow, JT Poston, I can't believe it. And I basically shut it off. And then my buddy texts me and he's like, hey, are you watching this? Poston just double bogeyed. So then I clicked it on, and that's when I started going back and forth with you and Mike. And I was like, holy cow, like this is a real golf tournament all of a sudden. And of course it goes down. I think it was like 6 playoff holes. It was insane.
Yeah.
But it was crazy because the first playoff hole, which was on 18, both guys stepped up and hit just, pounded shots right in the middle of the fairway. Poston sticks his to like 10 feet. Power misses the green off to the right, and he freaking chips in. I mean, he chips in, puts all the pressure on Poston. Poston drains it for basically the exact same putt he had on the 72nd hole. So it was great entertainment. The great thing for me and you as golf fans is we got, basically 2 full days worth of golf packed into one day, watching from 4 in the morning till basically 5-6 o'clock at night.
Yeah, absolutely. I love it. I love watching alternate events. I also watch like Euro Tour or stuff like that. But the Open itself was great. I thought it was a great tournament. Obviously, Morikawa, absolute stud. I didn't have any of them, unfortunately, in DraftKings or anything like that. I was very thrown off by his comments about not being able to hit the ball on links courses like from the week before. So that scared me, and I saw the tweet about it, and it just basically just kind of scared me away from him. I'm never going to make that mistake again. I'm literally going to play him in every major for the next 10 years, so we'll see. He's getting a lot of, obviously, Tiger Woods comparisons and stuff like that with his accomplishments in a short amount of time. So they're well deserved, but long way to go. A lot of things happen in a career, but I can't see anything else. But there's no cap to his ceiling at the moment. I don't think. I think he can win. He should be in contention at every major.
Yeah, it's interesting. There are a few things I want to talk about in relation to the Open with you. outside of just kind of what happened with your DraftKings strategy and how things broke down for you, because we'll get into that in a second. But one of the things that I talked about briefly with Mike, which was kind of a story midway through the tournament, was Bryson. He basically was playing like dog crap. And in a moment of frustration, he blames the manufacturer for having less than, I guess, stellar equipment. And Puma took issue with that, right? They went to social media, fired back, and you had this very high-profile argument between a manufacturer and a golfer that you never see before. The thing about it to me, and this is the point I made with Mike last night, is of all of the athletes in any sport that are going to complain about the aerodynamics, the structural integrity, the way something is engineered, Bryson is probably the most equipped in terms of his knowledge, his ability to be able to dissect things, how involved he is in every aspect of his process, to be able to make that kind of critique. Is it okay for him to do that publicly? Probably not, because they're paying him millions of dollars to hit their clubs. At the same point in time, if anybody's going to say that the club's a piece of crap, Bryson's probably the guy who is the best equipped to make that analysis.
Yeah, I agree on that aspect of it. He made a mistake. He shouldn't have said it publicly, and he apologized for it later, obviously.
Immediately apologized, yeah.
Yeah, but here's my take on it is Cobra has two golfers, basically, Bryson and Ricky. And
yep.
Ricky, obviously, he's been not playing great for the last couple of years or whatever. So their main guy is Bryson right now. There was talk about like Cobra's going to let him go or fire him or whatever. That's not happening. He is their main draw right now. He's a top 10 player in the world. He's not going anywhere from Cobra unless he decides to go somewhere else from Cobra. But Cobra's not letting him go. They'll resolve it behind doors. I'm sure they'll punish him somehow. But he's gonna not make that mistake in the future. Even though he does tend to say some things out there that are a little faux pas. But we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, the thing to me is the guy can't do anything right. There's so many people out there that are so negative and anti-Bryson, and that's the part of it that I get kind of pissed off at. He's a young guy. He's a high-profile guy. He's different. I think it's been out there through multiple sources that he's one of those guys that's just kind of socially awkward. He doesn't understand how he's supposed to act in front of the camera. And from times he gets emotional and he loses control and he says things like he did this weekend. But it seems like no matter what he does, people want to pile on because he's just not a likable guy. I mean, for him to be basically the biggest villain in golf outside of Patrick Reed is insane to me because he's a nice guy. He's a quality guy. And you talk to the people, at the course, at the tournaments, even at Cobra and Puma, they love him. He's a quality dude. So, it sucks that somebody like that. We always scream for people to be honest, right? Like be authentic, be honest. Tell us what you really think. Like we're always telling folks that. And when somebody does, we want to lambaste the guy for it. So I like I said, I felt like it was a little over the top. Like too many people were piling on Bryson. He was playing like crap. He's obviously forfeited the whole experience and experiment of trying to duel with Brooks on social media. He's walked away from that deal. And then, this happened. So like I said, I kind of felt bad for the kid and I hope he figures it out because I do like Bryson. I think he's got a long future in the game. And I think he's gonna have a lot of success.
Yeah, I agree.
So the other thing that I wanted to mention to you was something that we all got wrong and you touched on it. And I think Morikawa is probably, I guess, the tip of the iceberg with all of this is that we all talked about, and I'll be the first one to say, I talked about at length what you're going to have to deal with at the Open Championship, weather, wind, all the intangibles, right? So all the metrics that we typically grab, especially because this is happening in Europe on a links course where we don't have a lot of data. Half of the golfers in the field we have zero information on. And so all of these intangibles and things that we said are going to be so important to who wins this thing, you can just throw them out the window. There was no weather, there was no wind. The best ball strikers in the world were the guys at the top of the board, and Morikawa won because he's the best iron player in the world.
Yeah, and I'm gonna go out on a limb and say that if the weather was bad and there was winds like we usually expect at the Open, Lee Westwood would have won. He would have won the Claret Jug.
Yeah, I have to admit, yeah, your Westwood one, you had me believing as well too. I even put him on there.
He made the cut, but
with the Claret Jug.
Yeah, he made the cut. He was -2 after Friday. I thought he was going to make a run at it at the weekend, but he just kind of faded away. But the weirdest thing about Morikawa's win was that he actually played in the PM AM draw, which was Thursday Friday, which was I think 2 strokes tougher than the AM PM draw. So he played in the tougher draw, and I don't even know what the reasoning was for the one side of the draw being tougher than the other. No one saw it. We expected the PM AM to actually be a little easier from the wind aspect of it, which at the end of the day was not a factor. But the fact that he won the tournament from the tougher draw, he probably could have shot 2 strokes better if he had the easier draw. Just kind of solidifies that he was the best player in the tournament. He deserved to win, and he has the second major now.
Yeah, well, the thing to me was throughout the entire tournament from day one on, and we talked about it a little bit with Phil and Stenson, was if you get this window where there's no wind, there's no weather, and you can go out and score, right? Because the major defense for a lot of these link-style courses, especially Royal St. George, which is a coastal course, it needs that to be able to contend. The rough is high, but it's not like U.S. Open rough where it's super thick, ball disappears. Yes, it's high fescue, but you saw it all tournament. Guys were getting out of that stuff when they were off the fairways. So the weather and the wind were a key factor that the course needed to try and keep scores down. With all of that being said, there were literally 3 guys that had a chance to win this tournament. That was Morikawa, Louis, and Spieth from day one on. I mean, Corey Connors and Fratelli a little bit on Saturday and Sunday. Rahm made a push late on Sunday to get to 11 under. But realistically, those 3 guys were the guys that kind of had their arms around the trophy the entire 4 days. And nobody else really made a heavy push into getting into that mix.
Yeah, I thought Rahm was going to win when I think he stuffed it on the first few holes on Sunday, and he missed a couple short putts, and I was like, if he made those putts, he's going to be right there. But I was cheering for Spieth, financially wise. I had a ticket on him, which after seeing that my lineups were tanking on DFS all week, I was like, the only thing that's going to save me now is a Spieth win. Yeah. Luckily, I got the power win. It would have been nice if Spieth won and power won. I would have actually profited betting wise, or like overall for the week. But it's all good. That it's major championship season's over now. I'm kind of upset about that. We don't get a major now until April of next year, but we have some good golf to look forward to. FedEx Cup playoffs, Ryder Cup, Olympics. That's all coming up soon, so that should be exciting.
Yeah, no, I'm pumped. The Olympics kind of fills the void a little bit here next week for what would be, I guess a major, a WGC. We've got some of the best players in the world. Kind of feels like a soft WGC because you've got basically 15 really good guys and then a bunch of guys that are jabronis from other countries. Yeah. But it's still the Olympics. It's still a gold medal. There's still a lot of celebration around winning a gold medal. So whether you're Justin Rose or Henrik Stenson, guys who medaled last year, or the crop of guys this year, the narrative around Siwoo and Sung Jae and the fact that they have to win a medal to not have to do 2 years of military service. There's a lot of really good storylines for this year's golf in the Olympics. So I'm actually somewhat excited to see how that breaks down.
Yeah, me too.
All right, so before we jump into the remainder of the crappy tournaments that we have for the rest of the year, why don't we recap, Rick? Why don't you give us a rundown of your 2021 Open Championship? You talked about it a little bit. You were in the 600K Mega. Give us a little more background and information about that.
Yeah, so I decided to play. My main lineup was DJ, Reed, and then after that I had Westwood, Neiman, Ricky, and Scheffler. That was my main lineup in the 888 last week. My core there was I decided to go to DJ up top. He was coming in super low owned, and I thought he had a good chance to win, and his game was kind of rounding into form, so I decided to go DJ, and then Westwood was part of my core, and then Scheffler was part of my core. So I kind of hit that area of it. Westwood obviously made the cut but didn't pan out. Reed killed my lineups. He was the chalkiest guy that busted last week and missed the cut. If I went back and did some calculations, and if I had played Spieth over Reed and then dropped from Ricky down to like Sam Burns, who I also really like, I would have cashed it. I would have cashed in everything. So that would have been a good 6 of 6 lineup, and I would have cashed in everything and had a good week. But it happens. I was debating between Cantley and Reed at that spot, and it didn't really matter at the end because they both missed a cut. So either way, I was going to fail on that aspect of it. But I like when I got the actual ownerships when I opened up DK after the tournament locked. I like something I didn't talk about last week, but I like it when my lineups are total ownerships under 80%. That means that you have a really unique lineup, and I think my total ownership for that lineup was like 69% or something like that. So I was happy about that. I was definitely happy with the way Scheffler and DJ were playing, but at the end of the day, it is what it is, and time to you just a couple clicks away from being a positive week, but it ended up being a negative week. Time to move on to the 3M Open.
Yeah, exactly. No, it's one of those things, and that's why I've pivoted so much of the way that I invest my money from DK over to the betting part of it, is because I only need to get one guy right. I can have 5, 6, 8 guys. I only need to get one of them right in order to cash it. And in DFS, I mean, to your point, you can be so close and just one minor pivot, and then everything goes to crap, and that's what happens. And it's still so much fun to play, and I mean, I love playing every single week. But the majority of my money is now invested in betting, because nothing's more frustrating than watching a guy miss the cut by 1 on Friday and then realize that every one of your lineups is totally roasted going into the weekend.
Yeah, but the best thing is you hit those 6 guys and you win $100K or $200K or $1 million, not a regular little bet.
Well, I can't make that assessment. I know one guy who can, but I can't make that proclamation myself.
Yeah, that's a different little juice right there that you get.
Yeah, exactly. All right, well, you mentioned it. Let's jump into it, dude. The 3M Open. We're in Minnesota. It's TPC Twin Cities. Arnold Palmer design. Tom Lehman did a redesign here, I think about 15 or 20 years ago. One of the turns in one of the holes is actually named after. It's called Tom's Thumb. Key stats this week. I mentioned it on the betting show with Mike. It feels like rinse and repeat with the tournaments that led up to the British Open. Whether it's the Rocket Mortgage, the John Deere, it's like put the ball in the fairway, have wedges into greens, and who can get to 20 under the fastest, right? Score, score, score. So a lot of the same statistics that I was targeting in the weeks leading up to this are the same ones that I'm picking here, right? Strokes gained approach, birdie or better, off the tee, greens in regulation, those things, the ball striking. And you just got to hope, kind of like Morikawa in the Open, that a guy just gets a hot putter going into the week.
Yeah. And then on top of that, this week, there's looking like weather-wise, it's going to be hot, humid, no wind whatsoever. So it's going to be a big-time birdie fest. From what I'm hearing about the course, I thought maybe it would be a little. It seems like I was thinking maybe it was going to be a little firm and fast, which would make it a little bit more difficult. But from what I'm hearing, the course is like lush, maybe even a little soft. So I expect the winning score this week to be in the 20s for sure.
Yeah, I mean, the thing that is a little bit interesting is if you look at it, this tournament's only been on the rotation for 2 years. Mm-hmm. The first year, you got Wolf in his, I think, 3rd or 4th tournament. He chips in for eagle on the final hole to outlast Bryson and Morikawa.
Crushed me that week.
Yeah.
I had a big Morikawa ticket that week. And
a lot of people did. He was the pick going into the week. But if you look at the top of the board in 2019, you had kind of those power guys at the top of the board. And then you fast forward to 2020, Michael Thompson wins. And if you look at the board, it's a completely different setup of guys. It's the hit and giggle guys that hit the ball 270 yards, good with long irons, and are good with approaches. So completely different setup. And I guess to your point, how should we expect this course to set up this year? Is it going to be like 2019? Is it going to be like 2020? Because the field, other than the top of the board, is pretty much trash. I mean, outside of the top 15 or 16 guys. So I'm really curious to see how everything's going to break down this week. And so, like I said, I'm more looking at guys who just can score. I want ball strikers. I want guys who can get hot and basically run the race as fast as possible.
Yep.
All right, so let's jump right into it. Let's jump to the top of the board. What we've got is everybody here above $9,000. DJ at 11.3, #1 player in the world, coming in with the top 10 from the British Open. Louis, obviously, we know where he's at. Tony Finau, one of the few guys who has great course history at this tournament. Patrick Reed, who's played here as well. Sergio, Wolf defending champion. Cameron Tringali, everybody's favorite guy. Emiliano Grillo, my pick pre-tournament to be the guy to win this one. Cam Davis, fresh off a win at the Rocket Mortgage, a corollary course. Bubba Watson, a guy who has been very, very hot with everything except the putter. And our boy Bobby Mack from Europe, making his debut on the PGA Tour.
Yeah. So for me this week, I'm not really feeling the guys above 10K. I think most of my lineups this week are going to start in the 9K range, just to be a little bit more balanced, because I really don't like anyone, like a lot of guys in the 6K range. But the top of the board is a little weird this week. You got guys that all played, Dustin, Louis, Tony, and Reed all played last week. Out of the four made the cut, like we already talked about Reed missing the cut. Right now, for me, I'm seeing DJ and Finau being the highest owned. They're both coming in at a little over 20%, and then Louis is a clear pivot there. I'm going to be off Louis this week. I just don't know what his. I don't even know if he's going to actually end up teeing it up. He might withdraw tomorrow, but yeah. So he's coming in low owned, but I just don't know where he is mentally right now after losing another major last week. So I'm going to be out on Louis. Between the other three, I'm going to go back to Reed. I think the biggest mistake you make in DFS is that you don't like playing a guy that burned you the week before. But Patrick Reed this year has miscut, goes back, bounces back like the next week, like all the time, like finishes the top 5, top 10. So I'm going to be out of the guys at the top. I'm going to play Reed. DJ, I don't know. The thing is with DJ last year, at this time of the year last year, he literally shot 80 at Memorial, shot 78 here and withdrew because I don't know what was up with him. But then after that, he literally won like either one or like runner up like 5 of the next like 7 tournaments, including like the Masters. So what I like to say with DJ is the guy likes cash, and we're coming up on cash season soon. So FedEx Cup playoffs and WGCs and stuff like that. So I think this is a good tune-up event for him. So I don't know how motivated he is going to be to play. So I'm going to fade Louis. I'm going to play Reed. And then between DJ and Finau, probably going to go to Finau. He finished 3rd here last year, so he's played well last week, but his form on the PGA Tour for the last like couple months has been pretty bad. But I'll have Finau and Reed, and probably fade DJ and Louis up top.
Yeah, it's interesting. You brought up a good point in the fact that there's going to be a lot of people that are going to start their builds in the 8,000s or 9,000s, because below 7K, it's just, it's a dumpster fire down there. And so a lot of people, I think, are going to be gravitating towards a balanced build, because there's just very few options where you've got any cut equity, you've got any kind of placement equity down below 7,000. Even in the low 7Ks, it gets real scary real quick. Yeah. So I think your commentary about that is a common narrative that we're going to see from a bunch of folks doing DFS this week, is that they're going to want to get 2 guys in the 8s and the 9s and build in the high 7s and kind of stay there. So we could see the ownership pool, which means guys like DJ, Louis, Finau, Reed, you could see some ownership slippage when it comes time to actual lock, because folks are going to be like, well, I can get Tringali and Davis and a guy in the 8s, and I can really stack my lineup. So I'm interested to see how that all shakes out. I did some research a little bit earlier today on Fantasy National, just looking at where projected ownership is. I realize it's early on a Tuesday, but a lot of the guys, you've got guys in the next tier were garnering a ton of ownership.
Yeah.
And so, I'm interested to see how that breaks down. I'm curious to hear your take on Bubba. Bubba's another guy that just, he feels like my philosophy of picking the crappiest house in the best neighborhood, right? He just feels mispriced compared to a lot of guys with his form, his track record, his pedigree. I realize he hasn't won at this place, and Bubba tends to win at the same places all the time. But what's your take on Bubba this week?
I'm in on him. I bet him to win, and I think he has a really good shot of winning. He played really well at the Travelers a few weeks ago and kind of blew it on Sunday. He's been off with the putter, but he has his courses, but who knows? This could be one of his courses. We don't know yet. Obviously, we don't have enough data on it, but he likes the thing is with this course is that there's a lot of water, but you can bomb it out, and the fairways are super wide, so he has a lot of room there to be able to like hit the fairways. But he is coming in a little chalky in the 9K range for me. There, I know you talked a little bit about ownership there, but there's two chalky guys here. It's Tringali and Bubba, and I'm actually gonna, me personally, I'm going to play Bubba and fade Tringali. I mean, 9,500's a steep price to pay for Tringali. I mean, I can see him being a cash game play where you want to play like somebody heads up or a bet or something like that. But in a GPP like big field tournament where he's coming in at like 20% or 25% ownership, I'm just not going to play Tringali. I just can't. I just don't see him winning with other guys around him that I like more than him. I pretty much like everyone else in the 9K range, to be honest with you, besides Tringali from a game theory aspect. I mean, the rest of the ownership after Tringali and Watson is pretty flat. They're all double digits, but they're all kind of within the 10 to 15% range. And I really like Wolf. I like Sergio. You talked about Griot. He's a ball striking machine and just can't putt, but he could easily win here. I don't know what the ownership's going to come in. I'm thinking Cam Davis might be a little bit lower than expected, but he's coming off of a win. Why not Cam Davis? Why not Bobby McIntyre? I like all these guys. I'm just not going to play Tringali. I'm going to play everyone else. Most of my lineups are going to start in this range, and they're just not going to start with Tringali. They're going to start with all the other guys.
Yeah, Cam Davis is a guy I really like this week from a game theory perspective, to your point. The narrative behind folks, the psychology is, hey, he just won, so he's removed from the mix of the player pool, right? He's just not going to do well again because he's got his win for the season. And Cam Davis, I think the Rocket Mortgage, you're going to see a lot of crossover in the leaderboard between what we saw in the Rocket Mortgage and what we're going to see this week. And all of the statistical things that I'm targeting my modeling and looking at, Cam Davis keeps popping up top 10, top 10, top 10. You talked about Grillo being a ball striker. Cam Davis is a ball striker. He's also a bomber. So, I think he can win 2 tournaments in a year? Highly unlikely. But I think from a DraftKings perspective, you can get a little leverage on the field because people will gravitate to a lot of the other names that you threw out. And Cam Davis checks all the boxes that those same guys check.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll be in on him. I'm probably going to be highest owned in this area for me. I'm going to be the most overweight on Wolf and Watson.
Yeah.
Like Wolf, he skipped last week. He skipped the Open. I don't know really why he skipped the Open. I think he didn't want to deal with like COVID protocol bullshit. But like,
same as Bubba. Bubba made the same call.
Yeah, same call. But I mean, he has. If you're looking at Wolf, who's 9,700 compared to like Tringali or Griot, out of those 3 guys, like Wolf has the biggest win equity in my opinion between those like 3 guys. So I'm gonna play Wolf. I'm gonna play Watson and Sergio up top. Who knows? He won a really crappy event earlier in the year at was it Sanderson Farms that he won?
Sanderson's Farm. That was my first hit of the year.
Yeah. So he's good in Birdie Fest too. He played all right last week. I think he ended up finishing -2 or 3 or something like that. But he played okay last week. 9,900 is pretty steep for Sergio, but I'll play him. But Bobby Mack, I don't know. He withdrew from the Euro Tour event this week to play in this event. So I'm thinking he's trying to get his like card to play for next year.
He's trying to beat Garrett Higo this week, basically.
Yeah, he's trying to win an event because if he played in the Euro event versus some jabronis over there, that he would have been the favorite in that event, like obviously. So he could have easily won that. But I think he's literally trying to rack up some like FedEx Cup points or sponsor exemptions to try to win an event. So yeah, I mean, could this be a letdown spot for him? Yeah, I mean, he played pretty good last week, so. We'll see. I'll be in on some Bobby Mack, but he's pretty fun to watch. He's a big lefty that likes to pound the ball, and he's pretty good from tee to green.
Yeah, absolutely. Bobby Mack, I think he of all the guys other than Cam Davis, I think you could see ownership slide on him because it's his first tournament versus the other guys. So let's go ahead and drop down to the next range, the 8,900 to 7,600. Again, sounds like a wide range, but there's only a few guys on this list. But I do want to ask you specifically about a few guys. It seems like nobody's playing Lucas Herbert or Lucas Hebert, however you want to pronounce it. Nobody's playing Ryan Moore. Nobody's playing Lonto, JT. The guys where everybody seems to be gravitating, Keegan, Luke List, Hank Lebioda. Lebioda is going to be the most heavily owned guy in this tournament by far. And the thing that scares the crap out about me is it's all been putting. Everything to get to this point has been putting. The guy went from a guy who was losing half to a stroke putting through the majority of his PGA Tour career to basically the last 4 or 5 weeks, he's been gaining 4 to 5 strokes putting every week. So is that sustainable? But Lebioda, let me get your thoughts on that.
Yeah. So Lebioda is going to be my pick to win this week.
I bet on him as well too. I don't want to miss it. I have FOMO on Hank Lebioda right now.
Yeah, I'm going to use him on one and done. I'm just going to ride the heater. I mean, he's been absolutely fire the last month, and he is going to be coming in really chalky. He's coming. I'm seeing like 24% right now, and I'm just going to eat the chalk with him. He's been so good the last month, and we're getting a 24% chalky Hank Lebioda. Probably going to burn us, but who knows? I'm sure there's going to be some regression with him coming soon. But I'm going to ride it for one more week, and I think this is one of those events where he has a pretty good chance to win. I'm going to use him in like one and done contests and stuff like that this week. So definitely in on Lebioda. In the 8K range, it's pretty. It's a little weird in the 8K range. There's 2 chalky guys. There's Luke List and Maverick McNeely that are coming in the highest owned in the 8K range. Everyone else is either like a direct pivot low owned or like in the tweener range, like 10 to 15%. Between those 2 guys, I'm going to eat the chalk with Luke. He is probably the most frustrating person to watch on the PGA Tour for me. The guy, I was watching him last week, and I mean, it's not just last week, it's literally every week with him. He literally stuffs the ball to like 4 or 5 feet all the time and then misses the putt. And it's not watching it live or watching it on Shot Tracker, like 4 foot 9 inches from the cup. And it's so frustrating to watch. But he has, in the past, like he has gained strokes putting in events. And I'm just going to take the ball striking with him. I'm going to fade McNeely. He's a DFS darling. People love playing Maverick McNeely, but between those 2 guys, I can't play both of them. They're both going to be between 18 to 20% owned. I'm going to fade McNeely and play Luke List. Other guys in the 8K range, like you said, Lucas Herbert, I don't even know how to say his last name, but him and Ricky and Stuart Sink and Fratelli are all coming in and Woodland too, are all coming in like super, super low owned. And between those guys, I'm probably going to play a little Fratelli. He was really good last week. He was in it till I don't even know, like halfway through Sunday, basically. I'm going to ride that a little bit. He's coming in at like less than 5% owned. Don't have to get much overweight on him to be like double or triple the field. Soft spot for Ricky for me. I'm always going to play him. He was in my main lineup last week, so I'm going to go back to him. Just going to continue to burn me, I'm sure. I'll probably not play that much Keegan, but I think in all honesty, let me get your take on this. I think my favorite play in the 8K range is going to be Patton Kizzire. The guy, for the last I think 4 or 5 events that he's played, he literally is gaining 3 to 7 strokes on Sundays, just Sundays, and just rocketing up. Finishes. Yeah, rocketing up the leaderboard and just going from not cashing your lineups to heavily cashing your lineups because of Patton Kizzire. Can you put it together for 4 rounds? I don't know, but what's your take on Patton?
Yeah, I think the point that you brought up, the way that he performs on Sunday, he's typically got an early tee time, so he's one of the first few groups out, and he goes out and takes advantage of the conditions. We all know, those early morning rounds, even the ones that start before noon, you're getting softer conditions. You're getting the best conditions that the course is going to see all day, and so he takes advantage of that. The pressure's off, and he shows up. I like Kizzire a lot in the narrative, I think, around guys like List and Lebioda. You can apply to a guy like Patton Kizzire. He's been playing some of the best golf in his career over the last 4 or 5 weeks. Maverick McNeely, who people love. Patrick Rogers is another guy that's there's been a resurgence in his career. Chris Kirk is another guy. Doug Gim is another one that a lot of people are targeting. Yeah. But specifically Kizzire, I think his ownership, the only thing that scares me about him is you could see his ownership sneakily rise up to 12, 15, 18%, because I think a lot of people are going to be like, nobody's playing Patton Kizzire. Nobody's going to do that. But we're all looking at the same stats, and he rates out very well in the model.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that, but the thing with him is that there's some names right around him that people seem to gravitate towards more too, like Keegan and Maverick and Luke List. And I don't know how much his ownership. Right now I'm seeing 11.2% as a projection, so that's not bad. I don't mind that number. I'll be overweight on that. Stewie Sink also, he's been pretty lights out this year. Tee to Green. He's an old guy.
Got 2 wins. The guy's got 2 wins this year.
Yeah, and he's he's an old guy that's just pounding the ball. I think this course sets up pretty good for him, so I'll have a little thing too. Dropping down to the upper sevens for me, like we talked about, I'm in on Libiota. I'm going to eat the chalk and be overweight on him. The next couple guys that I like here a lot. I don't know. Do you know much about this Mito guy, Mito Pereira?
Yeah, he won 3 times on the Corn Ferry. He's represented Chile in the Olympics.
So he was
a stud.
Yeah, so he was lights out last week, and he has just the only thing that he hasn't been able to do on tour so far. I think he has like 3 events so far, is putt. Like, and we don't know exactly. We don't have like statistics on him to know if he's actually a good putter because we don't get Corn Ferry stats or whatever. But I'm gonna play him. He played really good tee to green last week. Ball striking was amazing at the Barbasol last week. So I think coming from the Corn Ferry Tour, winning 3 times where every week is basically a birdie fest. And this is like basically kind of like a glorified Corn Ferry event.
100%.
So I'm going to play him. Doug Gim, he's been so good tee to green. Just literally can't putt for the last couple months. Light,
and he is just terrible with the flat stick in his hand.
Yeah. So can he flip it? I don't know. He's coming in chalky. I think I'd rather go to Libiota than Doug Gim, but I could see him being a safe play for cash this week. I know you said that you bet Werenski this week, right, Richie?
Yeah, so I bet Werenski. He's one of the few guys that has, I think, multiple top 30s in both renditions of this tournament. He played well with the Rocket Mortgage. Narrative that you can apply to Brandon Hagee, you can apply to Richie Werenski this week.
Yeah, and he's coming in at 2.2% ownership right now. So you could, if you're playing a 150 build like I will be, you can chuck him in like 10 to 15 lineups and be like quadruple the field. And he's a hole-in-one machine. The guy makes hole-in-ones.
He is
every week on tour. I think he had like 2 or 3 hole-in-ones in like consecutive tournaments or something like that. And that's great for DraftKings scoring. And he makes a lot of bogeys, but hey, if he makes the cut and makes a lot of birdies and makes a lot of bogeys, that's good for your DraftKings lineup. So yeah, those are the guys that I'm on in the upper sevens and the 8K range. We didn't talk about one guy I wanted to talk about. Who was it? Oh, Ryan Moore. He's
I hate Ryan Moore. I just got to throw it out there. I freaking hate Ryan Moore with a passion, but go ahead.
I literally don't understand this guy. This guy, like, he played his way into the Open with his finish at the John Deere a couple weeks ago. And then he decided that, no, he doesn't want to go play in the Open Championship where he could, potentially do something with his career, win a major. And, there's no saying that Ryan Moore can't win at an Open track. And he decides instead of him going to the major, he's going to go on vacation with his family. Like, where did he go on vacation where he didn't go and play in a major championship? I don't know. But anyways, he played well at the John Deere. He's coming in at single-digit ownership. I'll have a little Ryan Moore, too.
Yeah, I mean, Ryan Moore, we talk about it. He has these flashes. He's another guy. He's on Team No Putt with a bunch of folks. He just, when he's hitting the driver well, he scores. And that's really been the thing for him is, he's suffered through multiple back problems throughout his career. It's led to long layoffs. But if he's hitting the ball off the tee, the guy's great with a wedge in his hand. And every now and then he can get it going on the greens. And he has his comfort spots like the John Deere where he just shows up year in and year out. So with this track being a score fest, being easy, everything that's out there narrative-wise that you can read online is the greens are slow, they're easy to putt. That tells me Ryan Moore has a chance. It's just I hope he doesn't hit 6 in the drink because this place has a crap ton of water on it.
Yeah, so, wasn't it like 2 or 3 years, or maybe not, maybe like 4 years ago that he was almost like 2 strokes away from being a FedEx Cup champion? Like Rory caught him, I think, at Eastlake, and he could have been hoisting a $10 million check with a FedEx Cup win. But, that was just a few years ago. His game's kind of tanked since then, but, he's still there.
Yeah, I mean, if you're looking for leverage, him, Charles Howell, those older guys in this range, nobody's playing them. And if you're
Yeah.
looking from a game theory perspective, just if you're going to do multiple lineups, whether it's 20 or 150, adding those guys into 1-2% will drastically differentiate your lineup. And those guys have just as much chance as the Richie Werenskis and Patrick Rogers and Luke Lists of the world of making the cut and contending and even winning at a tournament like this.
Yeah, all these guys are basically the same except for Hank Labiota. The guy's a beast.
Yeah, like I said, that the only thing that scares me, and I picked him to win, I bet him as well too, is just the putting. Can he gain 5 strokes putting for the 4th or 5th week in a row? I hope so, because he's a top 25 ball striker, which means he's consistently good with the tee, good on approach. So he's the only guy in this tournament, when you look at the statistical model, that's in the top 25 for ball striking. He's in the top 15 for scoring and the top 10 for putting. So statistically, he rates perfectly, which typically means he lines up perfect to miss the cut.
Yeah, and one more thing with Hank is that his best putting surface is bentgrass. So we're in bentgrass this week. So I think he'll continue to be hot with a flat stick.
Like I said, go look at the Rocket Mortgage leaderboard, especially the last hour of the leaderboard on Sunday. How that thing kind of shifted around. Those are the guys who are going to be in contention in this tournament, and there's a lot of them in this tournament this week. All right, so let's drop down to the next range real quick before we get into the remainder, the last 100 guys in the field. Yeah. But we've got 75 to 7,000, the low sevens here. It's headlined by another guy that's going to be super chalky. Everybody is picking him on their betting card as well too, and that's Johnny Vegas. We've got another guy, Troy Merritt, who's been playing well. A few other guys of note in this range. Brandon Hagee, that we talked about, sets up well, one of the few guys with multiple top 30 finishes at this tournament, as well as our boy Pat Perez, the Prince of Paspalma. I love Pat Perez, but I'm not on him this week. Cam Champ, guy showed up at the John Deere out of nowhere after missing 10 cuts in a row, shows up and contends, falls apart on Sunday. Sepp Straka, who was a hot ticket here, 2 or 3 weeks ago, he's fallen into the abyss. And then Sam Ryder. Sam Ryder played fantastic on Sunday at the Barbasol. I think a lot of people are going to have him in their lineup. But some names that we've been hearing recently, including last year's champion, Michael Thompson, who's been god-awful this year. So what do you think about this range, the 75 to 7,000 range?
So in this range, 3 guys stick out chalk-wise. There's only 3 guys from the 7,500 to 7,000 that's coming in at double-digit ownership, and that's Vegas, Adam Schenk, and Kyle Stanley. So since I'm eating a lot of the chalk up top, I'm just going to pick one out of these 3 guys and fade the other 2. I'm going to be in on Vegas. I think this course sets up pretty well from him. He's a bomber and been playing really well this year. I'm just not going to play Schenk or Stanley. People love playing Stanley. The guy has made 6 straight cuts and is a ball striking machine, tee to green, but his putting is god awful, and I just don't think, even if he makes the weekend, he literally won't do anything for your DFS lineups, and he's coming in at double-digit ownership, so I don't think he's worth it. Adam Schenk, he had a good run, John Deere a couple weeks ago, so that's why I think he's a little priced up. I like Hagee, like you said. I like Champ, like you said. I like a little Bo Hostler this week. He's coming in low ownership. Everyone else is single-digit low ownership, so pick who you like and who you want to play. I'm out on Michael Thompson. I'm not going to play him. What's your thoughts on EVR? Last year at this tournament, he was uber chalk. He was I think coming in at 25, maybe even approaching 30% owned, because he has the University of Minnesota narrative that he played at here. This year he's coming in at 2% ownership, so big drastic change. He's terrible. He was in one of my bigger lineups last week at the Open, and he shot 1 under on Thursday and then went on to play terrible on Friday to miss the cut. So what's your thoughts on EVR?
Yeah, EVR has he's not been the same guy that he was last year. The fact that he was, I think high $8,000, $9,000 last year, and this year now you can get him at $7,400. The thing that scares me about him is the guy's ball is attracted to water. I don't care what course he plays at. I've seen that guy hit the ball in the water more than any other human being that walks on the planet. He just cannot stay out of the water, and there's a ton of it on this course. So he scares the daylights out of me. The guys that I like this week that I think are really good pivot plays, and again, you look at the statistical and the narrative piece, which is Rocket Mortgage success at this course in previous years. Troy Merritt's a guy that obviously he lost in a playoff duel to Cam Davis at the Rocket Mortgage. He's been playing really, really well. I think he had a top 10 finish or top 15 finish in the Barbasol last week. Has good course history here. Joel Dahman played well at the Open. No one's owning Joel Dahman. No one. He's a forgotten man in this lineup. So I think you can get some leverage there. Ches Reavie, who's been very up and down. But again, when you're talking about a fairly easy course, one that you can score at, Ches is a pretty good ball striker. And again, his name versus some of the other names of this field in this price range, it just doesn't make any sense to me. Adam Long is another one who has not played well at all this year, but he played well here last year. He's done well at the Rocket Mortgage historically, and statistically, he rates out very, very well. So Adam Long, I think, is a guy I wouldn't be super over-owned on him, but I think he's another guy, maybe not for DFS, maybe a top 20 bet who could surprise you at his odds. But those are three guys that I kind of like. I can't go back to EVR, man. Until that guy shows me some life, he's been god-awful this year.
Yeah, a couple other names we didn't really talk about. I know you mentioned him, Sam Ryder. This guy, he's been pretty bad this year, but he had what was it? Let me see, 11 strokes gained on approach last week at the Barbasol, which was like off, and it was 5 more. It was 5 strokes more than anyone else. He finished 3rd last week, so I'll play a little Sam Ryder. Bo Hogue. Do you know anything about Bo Hogue? He's kind of a name that pops every once in a while. He's I don't even.
I get Hogue and Hogg mixed up.
Yeah, I get Tom Hoagie and Bo Hogue. I get them mixed up too, but Bo Hogue in this area, I like him. My sleeper of the week, and it's because I have a little soft spot for him. He was in my GPP winning lineup from a couple months ago. Tom Lewis. The guy is
playing great.
Birdie. He plays great. Birdie Fest. He knows how to fill it up. He's a great birdie. I think birdie or better percentage. He's one of the top guys, and priced at 7,000. I like him way more than a lot of the guys that's under 7,000. He's coming in at no ownership, like 2% ownership. So that's my sleeper of the week, Tom Lewis. I could see him getting his way up there. I placed a little bomb sprinkle on him this week also. So yeah, that's my 6K, 7K, between 7 and 7,500.
Yeah. If I was to pick one guy, he's right in that same range. I mentioned Adam Long, but Ryan Armour. Ryan Armour is another guy that's been playing very good golf lately. Armour's a guy that's consistently below 6K in tournaments. You can usually get a value on him, and he just shows up at certain types of courses. Armour's not great in courses that demand you to be long off the tee, but he can lean on his accuracy. The guy is unbelievable with long irons. And when he gets a hot putter, man, he can show up. You know, I think it was at the John Deere here recently. They had a very good showing. So I think Armour's another guy that you could see sneakily make his way up on the leaderboard, especially on an easy course like this.
Yep. I could see that. I never play Ryan Armour. I know you have a soft spot for him because I think you played with him or something before.
Yeah. We played at the Wells Fargo. You missed the cut in the tournament, but he's the pro that we got to play with.
Oh, nice. Yeah. I mean, the guy has like Popeye forearms. He's like ripped.
Forearms. If I get two things to describe Ryan Armour, forearms and eyebrows. The guy has his eyebrow. He makes my eyebrows look like I'm bald. I mean, he is like he's from eyelid to forehead eyebrows. I mean, it's crazy. But the dude with long irons, man, he's a freak show with long irons, and he's a Midwest guy. He graduated from Ohio State. He's very familiar with the area. So he's a guy, being a Midwest guy, like I said, I have a soft spot for him. He's playing decent golf. I could see him making a run here. And then
he played pretty good in his last tournament, right? John Deere, I think it was.
Yeah, John Deere, which is a place that he always plays well. I mean, no big surprise, a place where Zach Johnson and Steve Stricker play well, Ryan Armour plays well. Same skill set, right?
All right, yeah. All right, let's get into the dumpster diving of the 6K range.
Yeah, the dumpster diving below 7K, and as you can tell, a massive number of guys priced below 6K. any guy in this range that's garnering more than 7% ownership is chalk this week.
Yeah,
and I don't know if there's a lot of guys that people are going to move to. I don't have a lot here. There were a couple names that I kind of circled based off of the way that they've been playing recently. The first one is Jason Duffner. Duffner has been fantastic tee to green. Every tournament that he's played in, he's been sneakily finishing top 20, top 15. The guy cannot putt. He's never been able to putt, but he's been playing very, very well. Rafa, RCB is another one, just from name value. The guys that he's priced around 2-3 years ago, this guy was a top 20 golfer in the world, and now he's obviously had some struggles, but he's had a couple top 20s. He's not playing terrible. So him, Duffner. The other guy is Kevin Tway. Tway's another guy. 3-4 years ago, he was playing really, really well, striking the hell out of the ball, and he just couldn't putt. And that's completely flip-flopped on him, where he's leaning heavily on his putter and his short game over the last 6-8 weeks, especially this season in general. But Tway's been playing well lately. He's a guy that does have some course history here. He's a guy that played at the Rocket Mortgage. So those would be three guys for me that I kind of like in the 6Ks. Obviously, all of them above 6,600. So there's nobody down way in the basement. But, the other guy, if I was to grab one other guy just purely off of name value as I'm scanning here, maybe Christoph Ventura. Just, again, you talk about ball strikers and just hope he figures out the putter at 6,100. If you've got him in 2% of your lineups, you're going to be way over-owned on him. And he can give you the leverage to be able to fit two of the higher price guys into your lineup.
Yeah, so I agree on that. I mean, so I'll rattle off some names here that I like. Like we talked about, this 6K range is going to be, no one's going down here. Everyone is under, like, not even going to crack like 5 or 6% ownership. No one. So it's just basically closing your eyes and clicking some names here who you want to round out your lineups with. I'll start at the top. Tom Hoge, he's made 2 cuts here, back-to-back years. So he's not been playing great recently, but he is a Minnesota guy. So I'll play a little Hoge. You already talked about him, but my favorite play in this range was Jason Duffner. He's just 2 straight top 30 finishes. He finished 32nd here last year. At this range, you just want your guy to make the cut, but he's been striking the hell out of the ball. So I'll play Duffner. Vincent Whaley, not many people know about Vincent Whaley. He was a DFS darling earlier this year. He was making cut after cut after cut. I think he had the longest cut streak on tour for a while, but then he's been playing recently kind of bad, and I think this is a good time to maybe jump back on him. Let's see who else I got here. KH Lee. He won the Byron Nelson earlier this year. Since his win, he's been awful. He just had a baby recently. I think last week or the week before, his wife had a baby. So I kind of like that. I like playing guys that are new fathers, baby swag, as we call it.
Baby swag.
So I'll be a little on KH. Kevin Tway, like you said, he's made 4 straight cuts. You could play him. If we're going to play Hank Lebioda up top because he's been all putter the last month, we can play a little Satoshi Kodaira down here, who's also been all putter the last month or so. He's been playing good. Let's see here. A couple other names, some guys that just like making a lot of birdies in events. Bronson Burgoon, Robbie Shelton, these guys are just like birdie machines. Robbie Shelton finished 3rd here last year. He's terrible. He has terrible form, but he could pop. Going down to the real dumpster diving, below 6,500. Let's see here. Michael Glidgic, he's a Canadian guy. He finished 19th last week at the Barbasol. He was 26th here last year. Michael Gellerman, he has a really good iron game, really bad putter. A lot of people have been talking about this guy, Wes Roach. Do you know him?
Yeah, Wes Roach. I know Roach. Last time I saw him on tour, he actually was playing with Bubba Watson. Great putter. He can't hit the ball off the tee. Wes Roach is another guy that likes to put it in the drink a lot.
Yeah, he's actually made 5 straight cuts on tour. So he's not safe. I think he's at 6,200 or 6,300. But if you're looking for someone to make the cut, I mean, he's made 5 straight. So you could go to Wes Roach. I think that's pretty much it. Late add to the field. I'm just going to play him because I like him, is Norman Zhang, the Panda.
Yep, the Panda.
Yeah, the Panda. Hasn't done anything on tour, but there's been a lot
college teammate of Colin Morikawa, though. They played at the University of Washington together.
Yep. So I'll have him in like one lineup. But other than that, this is all just a a bunch of no names and scrubs down here. I'm not going to go down here a lot. I think a lot of my lineups are going to be ending in the low sevens with like Champ and Lewis, like I said. But if I'm going to be a little, if I want to be a little different this week, play like two guys above 10K in a couple lineups, like DJ Finau or something, you're obviously going to have to go down here. So I'll have like a little Duffner and Cage Lee and those kind of guys. But that's about it for me in this range. I don't see anyone else. You got anyone else down here?
The only other guy that I saw that I did a little bit of deeper dive just based off of his recent performance is Fabian Gomez. Gomez has a top 15 finish here. He finished top 15 at the Rocket Mortgage. So again, when we're talking about guys that are below 7,000, you just want a guy to make the cut. So you've got a guy that may have some cut equity based on how he did here last year in the comp course in the Rocket Mortgage. There was one other guy that I was going to ask you about. And now I've lost him here. I think it was Mark Anderson. Yeah, Mark Anderson. Mark Anderson is a guy who's been playing very, very well as of late. He got a top 10 at the Rocket Mortgage, finished T26 last week, so he's got a little form coming in. Obviously, he missed the cut here, and the only time he showed up at this course. But, you know, Anderson's a guy that we see pop up on the West Coast, right? Especially the Amex. It seems like every year in the Amex out in Palm Springs, Mark Anderson's in the top 5, top 10. But any take on Anderson if we're just naming names?
Literally, I honestly, like, I pride myself in knowing like all the players in the field, and I really don't know who he is. Like, he has the most generic name ever, and I don't think I've ever rostered him in any DFS lineup whatsoever. I just don't know anything about him. To be completely honest, I just don't know anything about him.
Yeah, well, you know, maybe if you're going to build a Finau DJ lineup, you can bust your chair on Mark Anderson this week.
I'll put Mark Anderson in one lineup this week.
If Mark Anderson wins this thing, I'm gonna take that to the bank right there. I might have to put a little sprinkle on Mark Anderson after all the talk we just gave him, and he's freaking nobody.
Yeah. One more name that's been playing pretty good this year, last couple months, is Camilo Villegas. I think most people know him from a few years ago when he had the weird like thing when he would like crawl down on the green and try to like read putts and stuff like that. He's been like a I don't know, like a journeyman kind of guy on tour, but he's been pretty good this year. He's been especially in birdie fests, and he's been pretty good. Obviously, people that don't know, his infant daughter passed away earlier this year, so he
sad story.
Yeah, it's sad, very sad. And he's been playing with a heavy heart. So obviously, if he won, it would probably be one of the stories of the year when it comes to golf. So I'll have a little bit of Jagus too. Why not?
Yeah, Camille, like I said, heart goes out to him and his wife. Lost their only child, but he has been playing very, very well on the golf course. Ball striking has always been his deal. It's just whether or not he can get a putter going. So it seems to be a common theme with a lot of guys we've been talking about all day. It's just team no putt, right? Just get guys that are just ball striking machines and hope that this week on soft, slow greens, the guys can just sink some putts and fill up the cup. So I think that narrative is going to ring true. So after all of that being said, we kind of went through the field from top to bottom. Let's go to your bets, Rick, because I know you've got quite a few this week. I know this is the DFS show, but I think you felt left out after we didn't include you in the outright. So let's go to your card for this week, man.
Yeah, sure. So for this for the 3M Open, I got Matthew Wolff 30-1, Bubba Watson 40-1, Hammer and Hank Lebioda 50-1. Vegas at 60-1, Luke List at 65-1, and Patton Kizzire at 65-1. Those are my big ones. And then for bombs, just a little sprinkle on Tom Lewis, Brandon Hagee. They're both 130-1. Sam Ryder at 150-1, and Bronson Burgoon at 300-1. Me personally, I like betting the Euro Tour too. I watch golf. It's a global sport. I like watching the Euro Tour early on Sunday mornings when my guys are in contention. So a couple other bets I have in the Kazoo Open. I don't even know where that is, but just a couple names that I thought was good value, and a couple guys here. Chan Kim, 35-1. He played pretty good at the Open last week. Will Bessling, 35-1. Danny Van Tonder, 35-1. He played great at the Open last week. The guy is, we're going to talk about ripped with forearms with Ryan Armour. This guy is absolutely ripped. He's like Bryson ripped. And then Jack Senior at 80-1. And then just a couple little, just for shits and giggles, lottery ticket parlays I have, three-way parlays. First one, they're all going to involve Sam Horsfield and the Euro Tour, and Nelly Korda on the LPGA Tour, and then I paired them up with Dustin Johnson, that pays 1,039-1, Bubba Watson 5,329 to 1, and Hank Lebioda 6,629 to 1. If that hits for $20 and it pays out like $60K, we're going streaking.
Yeah, no doubt there. Yeah, it's kind of fun. I did find it kind of odd that you had Horsfield in every one of these props, but then you didn't have him on your Euro card.
No, I couldn't bet him. He's 12 to 1. He's the favorite. I think him and Matt Walsh are the favorites. 12 to 1 is just too low for me. So I just figured I'd tuck him in some. I think he's gonna win this week. I don't know if you ever read Ben Cooley on Twitter before, but he has a huge bet on Horsfield this week. So just kind of riding that a little bit, and just instead of just betting him at 12 to 1, I just went down the board a little bit on the Euro Tour, and I just put him in some parlays with Nelly and a couple other guys at 3 of open.
Yeah, Horsfield's one of those guys like earlier in the season, even pre-COVID. I think he had won twice on the Euro Tour. He's a guy that plays really well. The only thing I can tell you for sure about the Euro Tour is if you're going to bet, follow Sky and Tom, their show on YouTube. They were literally like 6 weeks in a row just handing out winners, just saying, bet this guy, he's going to win.
And I think that's where I got some of these bets from too. Like I think Sky's on Chan Kim, and I think Tom's on Jack Senior. So I think I copied those, followed them on those.
Yeah, I mean they just been so strong this week. So I highly recommend that if you're looking to do more Euro Tour stuff, that you reach out and watch those guys on YouTube. They've got a good show on the Mayo Media Network as well. Yeah. So. Well, cool, Rick. Anything else before we get ready for the 3M, man? Another good show.
Run down your card for me again. I forgot what you bet this week.
Yeah, so let's see here. My card changes all the time because I like to be right. So by keeping everyone guessing, that's the nice way to do it. Is I can just say, oh yeah, I bet that guy too. So my card this week, I had Bubba as well. Let me pull it up here. I had Tringali at 28 to 1. The form is just too much for me. Same thing with Grillo at 33. Bubba, I went to Woodland. His number just seems too high. I recognize he's been crap this year, but at a course where you're going to need to be good off the tee, historically, Woodland is very good. Warinsky, we talked about it, the narrative around course history and the Rocket Mortgage comp. And then Chris Kirk, one of the few guys that has both good ball striking and good putting stats. And then the final one was Hank Lebioda. I just couldn't stay away. As much as I wanted to, I just have massive FOMO. If he wins this week and everybody's holding the Lebioda ticket and I'm the only guy left out of that party, I'll be super pissed. Couple bombs to throw in there. Hagee, you and I both like. Cam Champ, Adam Long, Sepp Straka, and then I got Rafa at 150 to 1. So I have a little sprinkle on him. But a lot of the same guys, and I think the same narrative in terms of the guys that we're looking at this week. I really do feel good about Bubba and Lebioda probably more than anybody else.
Yep. And then also, obviously, during the week, if we find some like live plays or anything, we'll put them up on Twitter, or if we like somebody that's down the board and hitting the ball good. Me personally, I also like playing some head-to-head matches, not round 1, but like round 2 and 3.
Yep.
Finding guys that are hitting the ball well, and not putting well versus guys that are putting well and not hitting the ball good. I usually like taking the ball strikers more. So if you find some good edges there, you can hammer down and win some bets there.
Well, and obviously too, if you've got Fantasy National, the in-tournament stats, that's a massive advantage. I think Rick Gaiman at Rick Run Good also has in-tournament stats live feeds. So those give you the information. And to your point, like if you pick a guy who's absolutely hitting the crap out of the ball, sticking fairways and greens, but just can't hit a putt, that will flip eventually. And so those matchups against guys who are leaning heavily on the putter, those can be the difference. And those stats are key to making those kind of bets.
Yep, absolutely. All right, guys. Well, good luck this week. I'm going to go catch the fourth quarter of this Game 6 of the NBA Finals. It's looking like it's going to be a good game. And I'm going to go build my lineup, start building my lineups today, finish them up tomorrow, and then hopefully have a good week.
As always, Rick, we appreciate you being here, man. All your insights and analysis. For those of you who forget, you can follow us on Twitter at DFSJags. Rick, where can the kids follow you?
At Riku Mukherjee, hit me up on Insta or Twitter, wherever you find me. Next week, we have the Olympics. I'm assuming they're going to have DraftKings for that. I know I've seen some betting odds, but we'll see. But if they have DraftKings next week, we'll be here to break it down.
That's right. We'll be back again next week, and with both shows, the betting show and the DFS show. Thank you again, as always, and we'll see you next week.
All right. See you guys.